This is Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details. Here are your hosts, Joe, Matt, and Chris.
All the coaching vacancies are filled. That means there is no more head coaching vacancies out there. They've almost got all of their staffs finalized. We have seen every single team find who is going to be guiding the ship on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays. We don't discriminate here. All days matter when it comes to football. But that doesn't mean that one team didn't have the best hire of the offseason, and we are here to debate who that is. So before we get too much into it, I'm going to go ahead and decide who's going to go first to select who their coach was. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go with myself because I'm a greedy bastard, and that's what's going to happen. So I decided to go with myself because I want to make sure that I'm the first person to mention this hire because I think this hire is really, really great for a team that really, really needed it. And without a doubt, I want to say that the Las Vegas Raiders hiring Pete Carroll is probably one of the most underrated and yet greatest hires of this offseason. The guy is a bona fide winner. He wins everywhere he goes. I mean, hell, people forget that he was the head coach of the Patriots. He still had a pretty good season there between, when he was there in the early 90s. Then he went to USC, turned USC around, went to Seattle. Everyone didn't think he was going to do shit in Seattle. Who's Russell Wilson? Nobody knows. Well, guess what? They won a Super Bowl, the Legion of Booms there. He's a player's coach. He is absolutely the guy that you want on the sideline because he gets the best out of his guys. I mean, we've seen mediocre team after mediocre team towards the end of his tenure due to poor personnel decisions fall off of talent there in Seattle, and they still were competitive. The players still played for him, and still to this day, when he drafted DK Metcalf, that was still one of my favorite draft videos ever, where DK's got his shirt off and then Pete Carroll walks in, also shirt off. I mean, that is a pasty white man, but still great. Love it. Love it. Love it. But do you guys think that this is that Pete Carroll's not getting enough respect for this hire? Maybe Vegas, with the Tom Brady ownership now, is maybe turning the corner. I mean, it's possible, right?
I'm not that high on it. I'll be honest.
I'm huge on it. That's why I'm like, you fucker. That's the same one I had. That's the exact same one I had.
I'm not that high on it, honestly. Mostly because of the age. 73 years old is very, very old, honestly.
74 in September, but
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Even more. Thank you. I mean, look, he acts very young. I think he has a great mind for the game, and I think that's very important. But I think if we're thinking long term, look, they're in the middle of like a dynasty within their own division, and when that happens, I feel like you gotta find a coach that fits the timeline for you to be able to. I feel like they made that hire to try to topple it now, and I feel like there are other teams right now within that said division that are a way more ahead than the Raiders are. I'm thinking like the Chargers are ahead, the Broncos are ahead as well. And the Chiefs obviously are the top dog in the entire AFC. So that's kind of why I'm thinking to myself, I feel like you want to bring in a guy who's relatively younger. I thought Robert Saleh would have been a great hire, in my humble opinion. I don't hate the coaching hire. I feel like a team that was contending would have benefited more from having a Pete Carroll. But the Raiders, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not very high on that hire.
That's why I disagree, though, because I do feel like he's exactly what they needed based on like where they've been the last several years. So when you just like start looking stuff up for them, they haven't won a AFC West championship since 2002. They've been in since then in the playoffs. They've only been in twice. They have one in 2016 and they went in 2022 where they got completely demolished by the Bengals. Right. So to me, there is absolutely, they've tried, they went out and they went and got there what they thought was going to be their franchise QB. Right. That didn't work out. They went and got Josh McDaniels from the Patriots. That didn't work out. They tried to bring in Devontae Adams. That didn't work out. So I just feel like for me personally, like if you look at when somebody builds a house, right? What is the first thing they start with?
Foundation.
The foundation. You have to have a foundation. So when it comes to that, you're going to need somebody who's already had that type of experience where they've already built and succeeded and created their own foundation. And if there's anybody that a team in their locker room is going to listen to, it has to be him. It absolutely has to be him. Now I can get the conversation of like, he's turning 74, which was also one of my biggest concerns coming into this conversation was what is the game plan, which I would have to assume that they had some type of game plan when they had the interview as far as like what this looks like. Because if he's only coming in for 3 or 4 years, and then you start off really well, you have a lot of a lot of positive going through, and you're on the right direction, and he decides to leave, and there's no backup plan. That's when I would have an issue about it. We would come back to this conversation like maybe it wasn't the best hire. But with that said, I would think. I think he has a lot of life left in him. To be honest, he absolutely loves the game. He's obsessed with it. I think he's been obsessed with it for years. From my understanding, he's been in some type of coaching role since like 1973. So he's been in for a long, long time. And I don't think he ever had a want to not be in the NFL. So I don't see him. I can see him coaching until he's in his 80s easily. Look how the dude is chiseled. He's 75 or 74 years old. Like, come on. He looks great. But then, so this would be my thought process as far as asking him, and I don't know if a reporter has brought this up to him yet, but I think the one question, which would be the only question that would be of concern, is asking him, what is your plan? Like, do you have somebody coming under you that you're basically going to develop, that's going to be under you, and that's going to be kind of your successor, kind of like what they looked at with our Patriots head coach that left, right? So you want somebody under you that you're basically planning to groom to be your successor. Like, is that in place? Because the last thing I would want is for a team that is doing well for 3 or 4 or 5 years and have really started to become contenders, for him to leave and now they're back at square one and there was no plan and process for them to start over at all. But with that said, I do personally agree with Joe. I think this is probably one of the best hires in this entire thing because of that. Because if anybody needed it, it was them. And I'm astounded that it took this long for them to go grab him.
And to be fair, the Raiders may not be as far away as we think they are. They have cornerstone at tight end. They have a cornerstone at defensive end. They have, some young talent on that team. I think a good draft or two, and there's a solid chance that they're not far off. I mean, we forget that only a couple years ago with Derek Carr, they were making, they were steadily 8-8, 500 team. We blamed a lot of it on the coaching, blamed a lot of it on the scheme. I mean, Max Crosby's only 27 years old. Brock Bowers looked like one of the best tight ends in the league last year. Yeah. But I do agree that the age is a concern, and I'm going to start a petition, if you will, something I want to get some signatures on, of renaming the AFC West the old folks home, because every coach in the AFC West is over 60 years old. I just want to be clear. They're all 61 plus. They're all 61 plus. That is the oldest head coaching by division in the league. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. All right. But so you got Chris's perspective on it. You got my perspective on it. Let's hear somebody else, because obviously Matt and Sammy. I mean, Matt agrees that it's a good hire. I don't think that's the hire that Matt has, though. We already know that's not the hire Sammy's got. We'll save Sammy for last. We know that's not the hire he's got.
Why? What did I do? I just
Sammy's dodging me right now. That's
you asked me. You guys asked me for my opinion. What the heck? And I gave it.
And we don't care.
Clearly. What the heck, man?
Okay. So without further ado, Matt, what was the best head coaching hire of this offseason?
First of all, 2 things real quick. First of all, you said you guys asked for your opinion. I certainly did not. I did not ask for your opinion whatsoever. It was Joe who asked. Okay, just so we're clear, Joe asked for your opinion. I did not whatsoever. I just had to deal with whatever your opinion was. Okay. Second of all, Chris, when you brought up foundation, the reason why I got so excited is because I always talk about that. When I coach baseball, I talk about that with hitting, right? You're starting from your lower half. Your foundation is really important. So I always talk about that. That's why I got excited. But anyways, okay. My best hire of the offseason. Listen, I like the Pete Carroll hire. I agree with Sammy on some points that he is a little bit old. And again, that seems kind of like a win now move. But I do agree with both you guys. The foundation for them is super, super important as far as Vegas goes, especially Tom Brady being the owner. He knows how important bringing in a good culture, bringing a good foundation is. So I think the Pete Carroll move is going to work out. And I think eventually, Sammy, you brought up Robert Saleh. I think he could eventually be the successor, because Robert Saleh kind of has a similar style of coaching where he's defensive mind, but he's high energy. He's same thing. He's big on culture. He just had no opportunity to use that stuff with the Jets because of the ownership there. But so I think eventually he could transition into that head coaching role for the Las Vegas Raiders. But for me, number one was easy. It wasn't even close. It's exactly what this team needed. It's exactly what this young quarterback needed. It's Ben Johnson to the Bears. Like, it wasn't even close for me. And I've talked about this ad nauseum on other videos, but I'll talk about it a little bit more here. I mean, Ben Johnson, with his creativity, the uniqueness with his play calling, the schemes, the stuff that he's going to bring, just watching film with Caleb Williams, which is what Shane Waldron didn't do apparently. Like Shane Waldron apparently boycotted watching film with Caleb Williams. And now Ben Johnson's somebody who obviously studies the game, is going to, like he talked about in his press conference, he's going to scrap the entire Lions playbook and he's going to build a playbook tailored to Caleb Williams and Caleb Williams' skill sets. And that's exactly what Caleb Williams needs. He needs some structure. We saw the talent. We saw the flashes with him last year. But someone like Ben Johnson, again, coming in to build that scheme around Caleb Williams, around Robo Dunze, around DJ Moore, around all those weapons that they got. They have a couple of good moves in the draft as far as bringing in some interior offensive linemen. They get maybe Ashton Genty in there at running back, and you pair that with Ben Johnson. I think that's going to be an amazing fit. So to me, I think the best coaching move of the offseason was Ben Johnson to me, and it wasn't even that close.
But is there not a concern that he's never had to be a head coach before? Because that to me would be my main concern, is that we don't, because from everything that I've heard about him, they say that he is really like an introvert type of guy that just likes to be in his own area, basically scheming things up. And that was just his thing. I don't know a lot about him, but I think, especially because, we're Patriots fans, so we looked a lot into who the hires potentially were coming in. So we did a lot of overview on him over, Vrabel. So looking at, I think that was one of the main concerns that I think came out multiple times from different people. And I think I had the same concern as well. Yes, he is an offensive genius. Obviously, we've seen that. But also, like, you're now the head honcho. So how is that going to work? And does that not concern you at all as far as like what his ability is as a head coach and where that's going to go?
No, it doesn't concern me at all. I mean, there's proven head coaches that, like, again, the Patriots hired Mike Vrabel, right? Mike Vrabel could easily come in and fail his second time through. Like, it doesn't mean just because he has head coaching experience doesn't mean he's going to be guaranteed. Maybe he has a higher likelihood of being a good head coach, but we saw Sean McVay his first year come in and turn the Rams around. We saw Kyle Shanahan come in and turn the 49ers around. Like, we've seen a lot of these really good young offensive minds come in right away, and if they have a good, solid, even if it's not a great, like Sean McVay came in with Jared Goff. He's not like a game-changing quarterback. He's a good quarterback, but came in with Jared Goff, turned Jared Goff into an MVP candidate. You see the same thing with Kyle Shanahan. He made Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo look like high-level starting quarterbacks, So I think Ben Johnson's very capable of doing that, especially with someone of Caleb Williams' talent. Like, I'm not nervous at all whatsoever about Ben Johnson and with the Chicago Bears at all.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great pick. I mean, everyone's high on Ben Johnson. I think that everyone, when that signing happened, was like, oh my God, that's amazing. It's probably, one of the best, coaching hires that they could have gotten.
Yeah, easy.
And it's not hard to pick that one. Honestly, it's a very good pick. I think that it's a very valid pick. I think Bears fans have something to be excited about for the first time in a very long time. I mean, the Justin Fields thing kind of gave them a little bit of hope, but it was never really tangible. I think this is the first time they're like, hey, we finally got an offensive guy. Like, we got someone that we can generate some points. We can be explosive. So that's a really good pick. But Sammy, best for last, baby. The best for last, Sammy.
You're damn right.
Had the best coaching hire of the offseason.
All right. This isn't really a shocker for me. I thought, for a second, Matt, I thought you were going to go with my pick, but I think the Ben Johnson one definitely makes a lot of sense as well. I picked Mike Vrabel as the best hire of the entire offseason. I went with the Patriots. Shocker to my Miami Dolphins fans.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Look, and the reason why I picked Mike Vrabel is very simple. He's going into a great situation. This is a guy who has had winning locker rooms with the talent not being as good, with depleted rosters. And I remember there was a year 2021 where the roster was just gutted. And he still won 12 games. And now, did they win in the wild card? No, but they lost to the eventual AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. So it wasn't like it was something. It wasn't like it was a crazy loss given the circumstances. They sacked Burrow like 9 times, and they found a way to win the game. The Bengals found a way to win the game, and you can't really do much about that. Now, with that being said, let me talk about this hire. Drake May is the QB. And since Drake May is the QB, immediately the floor for this team, in my opinion, instantly raises. And since the floor raises, you add a Mike Vrabel, the floor raises again. I think Mike Vrabel is the perfect hard-nosed coach who should have been hired a year earlier. Let's be very, very honest. I don't know what Robert Kraft was thinking. Once he saw Mike Vrabel get fired, it should have been obvious who the next head coach was going to be, and it should have been Mike Vrabel. This is a guy who took a Tennessee Titans roster that had not won a division since 2008. 11 years, check that, 12 years later, he won back-to-back AFC South championships, which, look, the AFC South now is run mostly by the Texans. Who knows if Mike Vrabel had stayed, what that division would be looking like if they had given Mike Vrabel more time. The ironic thing about that, when the wheels really started to fall off, was when they decided to trade A.J. Brown for Treylon Burks. That is on the general manager. Mike Vrabel told them, hey, don't do this. It's stupid. And the GM said, screw you, we do what we want. And what ended up happening, they traded him. They brought in Treylon Burks. He's done nothing since. And they somehow, some way, this Titans organization scapegoated the coach that had won back-to-back divisional championships, took him to an AFC championship game in 2020 and lost to the eventual Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, who are still a dynasty, by the way. And I don't understand how this is becoming a rant about the Titans. I'm not going to do that. Look, the bottom line is this. I think the Patriots hit a home run with this hire. You have a ton of cap space to work with. You have a defensive-minded head coach who's going to have – the talent might not be there first year, maybe couple of years, but they're going to be disciplined, something they were not under Mayo. They are going to be solid defensively, not make any stupid mistakes. So I expect this defense immediately to turn it around. They're going to be top 10, in my opinion, under Mike Vrabel. I think Drake May is going to get some significant weapons. With Mike Vrabel, I kid you not, ladies and gentlemen, and I say this, and this is how you know I'm very excited about this hire. I would not be surprised if in 1 year they are in contention with the Bills to win this division next year. I will not be surprised if they go next year and they are in contention, because Mike Vrabel is a winning head coach. He's been a winning head coach. We saw it with Tennessee. If he could do that with Tennessee, you go to a solid organization like the New England Patriots. You have the QB, you have the personnel defensively, you have the cap space. I think this year it could. I know I'm preaching right now to somebody here,
bro.
Preach, my brother.
I'm saying,
you all of it.
look, and I would not be saying this. I would not be saying this if I wasn't serious about this hire. I think Mike Vrabel was the best hire this entire offseason, and I think the Patriots the dividends are gonna be paid immediately, as soon as the season starts.
Hey, you wanna join the bandwagon, dog? We're over here, bro. You wanna come be a Pats
May
fan?
jerseys
We'll
in
let
the
you right
mail.
in. We'll just
Hell
turn
no.
this into a Pats podcast.
I'll get you the high dollar one, man. I'll get you the one that's all stitched.
Look,
Stitched. No iron-ons, boy, just all stitched.
I think that, waiting and struggling first will lead to, when the championship eventually comes to Miami, it will be, it will make sense. But until then, I live in Miami, so I will be content with it being the Dolphins fan because the weather is nice and that's it. Okay. And Tua is my tribal chief. That's enough. That's enough for me, ladies and gentlemen. That's enough glazing of the Patriots. I don't know what the heck got into me there. I don't know what happened. Something took over my body, and it's like, wow. Maybe it's because
the truth shall set you free.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.